Taking on a challenge is a lot like riding a horse, isn't it? If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. Here's your look at the brand new Mcfarlane Toys movie Maniacs, Ted Lasso. From the Ted Lasso series comes the new movie Maniacs figure of the ever-optimistic Ted Lasso from Mcfarlane Toys. This highly detailed limited edition figure displays the memorable character in his coaching attire. American football coach Ted Lasso is hired by Rebecca Welton, a wealthy divorcee, to coach the English soccer team AFC Richmond. What he lacks in knowledge, he makes up for with optimism and biscuits. I feel like we just fell out of the lucky tree and hit every branch on the way down, ended up in a pool of cash and Sour Patch Kids. That's another Ted Lassoism. Before we get a closer look at the brand new Ted Lasso under the brand new banner of Movie Maniacs, yeah, Movie Maniacs is coming back in a big way. Let me first thank the folks over at Mcfarlane Toys that did provide the sample of Ted Lasso that we could have a look at this review. Ted Lasso, though, stands exactly 6 inches in height, or the figure's going to be 15 centimeters tall. Now, I do know that Ted Lasso is questionable in a line called Movie Maniacs because the character's not even in a movie, nor is he a maniac. Confident about the first, maybe less confident about the second. The figure is also not quite in scale with earlier Movie Maniacs that Mcfarlane's team have put out in the past. In fact, just to show you what he looks like next to Freddy Krueger. This is Freddy Krueger, I believe, from Wave 1 of Movie Maniacs, figure we've already done countless looks at before. Not only is the figure shorter than Freddy Krueger, but he's also unfortunately lacking a lot of the articulation, even though as limited as the articulation may have been in the original Movie Maniacs line, he still does lack a lot of that. He's essentially just a statue attached to a base. Despite perhaps lacking in posability, Ted Lasso, though, still manages to get quite a lot of stuff packaged along with the figure. Whereas times before, when we looked at Movie Maniacs, you remember that those would have had poster frames that would have had like that skeletal out frame, and then the inside would have been the cardboard poster of which the movie that character was pulled from. Ted Lasso, as well as the other Movie Maniacs we will be looking at. Oh, did I just give that away? I think I did. The other Movie Maniacs figures we will be looking at in upcoming reviews, stay tuned for that, do still manage to get themselves back cards. They're actually curved cardboard. The cardboard themselves, I'm going to go just take the sports off right now. You get yourself essentially a cardboard curve like this, and it's already actually curved like this. You don't have to warp this. Don't warp this, whatever you do. But you have sort of a stadium backdrop. It would have been actually nice if they had colored in some of the seats in red, like we get in the intro of Ted Lasso. But you do get yourself these cardboard standees that are of the similar shape, although they look to be in clear acrylic plastic. You essentially just take the cardboard, line it up into the provided grooves. You do it with the bottom, and you also do it, of course, with the top. And then once you get everything in line, you've got yourself a little standee. It, surprisingly holds pretty well considering it's a very thin amount of plastic that's holding everything upright. The figure also comes included with a side standee. The standee does advertise Warner Brothers celebrating 100 years. Can you imagine that? Ted Lasso, as you can see, has been printed here on the front, and it does make for a nice, interesting placard. You may notice, though, that there's slots provided here on the back. Is that to hold this? No, it's not. It's to actually hold the included card. Now, the card here, of course, does have Ted Lasso, but then on the back, it also serves as a certificate of authenticity. Normally, this would have been numbered out of 20,000. The thing about the Movie Maniacs is that this line is going to be more of a limited run. Ted Lasso, for example, is only out of 20,000. This one doesn't have to be marked, but I would imagine ones that are not provided by the company, and maybe ones sold in stores if you can track them down, will likely have the little number marked next to 20,000. Go ahead then and take the card and slide it into the slot provided here. And then you got yourself like a little card standee. I think that's nice. And while they didn't manage to find a way to kind of incorporate everything together, I do kind of like the idea that if you don't have as much the manageable space to work with, you can either have, again, the cardboard standee here in the front of Ted Lasso, a little cardboard standee next to it, or if you wanted to, you could just do away with this altogether, free up a little bit more of a footprint space, and you just have Ted Lasso next to his card. I think that's smart the way they did that. You may also notice off to the side here, there's also a box, and it's got question marks all over it. I've resisted all the urge to not open this and find out exactly what was inside. I wanted to wait until, of course, we got the video started to record. I'm going to open it up right now, not knowing, again, its contents. I'm going to pull this out, and inside we have ourselves an AFC Richmond, not patch, but a sticker. That's pretty cool. It is, again, a sticker. I thought perhaps it may have been like one of those vinyl stickers, but it does have like an adhesive quality on the back of it. So you probably could stick that onto a binder if you so wish. That's a kind of nice touch. Now, we are going to also be looking at in upcoming reviews The Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz, which again more fits, I think, the movie Maniacs line. We're also going to be looking at Harry Potter. I would imagine that they're all probably going to have the same cardboard box with question marks here on the front, the sides, and on the back. And they're probably going to also have something inside. I don't know if they're probably going to be all still stickers. We'll certainly have to wait to find out. You'll have to wait to find out. We'll all have to wait to find out. Let's move that then on to the side and now get a closer look at Ted Lasso. Now, he does come out of the box, and I will say this, you may have even noticed at the beginning of this review when I was trying to unpackage this guy. He's really hard to kind of remove from the tray because he actually does have vac-formed clear plastic, not only wrapped around the base, but also wrapped around the base of his legs. So I ended up having to cut the plastic on the back and sort of peel it away from Ted Lasso's legs so I could then simply slide the figure out. You may think to yourself, well, wait a minute. Couldn't you just detach the figure from his display stand? I thought that as well. First of all, you got yourself like a grassy, I would imagine it's faux grass. It ain't the real thing, but you got Ted Lasso printed here on the back here. And just behind that, or just in front of that, actually, you got yourself Ted Lasso. Now, when I took the figure out, he wobbles back and forth almost as if he should be able to be removed from this display stand. And though perhaps while there may be pegs on this tarp, I don't know if I could actually remove it because I would hate to think that it's not pegs intended to attach the figure onto the display stand, but more the way it was assembled in the factory, that if I was to do, say, this, it might potentially break just pegs that were there only in the first place to attach the figure onto the display base. It doesn't feel like he can be removed, although I can kind of wiggle it back and forth. So I'm going to leave him on the base. I'm going to leave it for somebody else to try this themselves and break the pegs and say, oh, I should have just left it. Also, you may see also down below here, the AFC Richmond logo, complete with the dog. So moving up from that, getting a closer look at the figure itself, I feel like I did start in a good place, not only because Ted Lasso has just started a new season, currently watching, I think we're into episode 3 of the show. I love Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso is the best. But yeah, I mean, when you get a look at this figure, I think it also happens to be the best of the batch. What we've gotten, at least from the movie Maniacs, only speaking right now for the Wicked Witch of the West, and of course, and also we also have Harry Potter. I think Ted Lasso might be the strongest sculpt of all the three. Head sculpt wise, you get yourself Ted Lasso, of course, played by actor Jason Sudeikis. I think he actually won a couple of Emmys, daytime Emmys, or he might have won show Emmys for actually his role of Ted Lasso. I think likeness-wise, I think it does look quite a lot like Ted Lasso. He's a little red on the face, though, but you could argue the argument, you could make the argument, I guess you could say, that the figure's been outside in the cold for a while, training with the rest of the boys from AFC Richmond, and maybe he's just gotten cold in the cheeks. I'm going to go ahead and stick with that. You can't quite see his eyes. His eyes are masked by glasses. I thought perhaps you'd be able to look inside, and I don't think you may be able to see. There might be eyes behind the glasses, but the glasses are obviously not removable. He does also have a visor cap that's on the top, which does also have the AFC Richmond logo on the top there as well. But a really good head sculpt. Maybe I would say it's a little rosier in the cheeks, but it still, I feel, gets a good bang-on likeness to actor Jason Sudeikis. Moving on from that, of course, he does have his AFC Richmond. How many times we're probably going to be saying that? He does wear his jacket, of course, in this case. Nice colors of a lighter blue, a darker blue for the shoulder pad area. You've got a little bit of logo there on the top. On the one side, you've got the beam patch. A little symbol there off to the side as well. Got his little chained whistle there also as well. Soccer ball in hand. And then further down that, he's got some more continued over logos. Richmond, and of course a little symbol off to the side. He's got his sneakers down below in a nice light pastel blue. Colors for how small this figure is actually really quite good. Down to the lace, as you can see, there's a lot of cool detail that Mcfarlane's team did paint into this piece. Now, the thing about it, though, oh, and also one other thing I really like for attention to detail, he does have his little pink box of biscuits that he ends up giving to Rebecca every single morning. Of course, we all know who's actually making those biscuits. I think that's a fun touch, the fact that they would have actually included that inside his hand. Really, really nice work. Now, the thing about the figure, though, is I will tell you this. He's less a figure and he's more of a statue. Whereas Freddy Krueger, for example, let's just put down Ted Lasso here for a second. We'll bring in a normal movie Maniac figure. It would have, of course, varied from posability when it comes to figures. But generally, on average, they would have head swivels. You'd be able to move the arms back and forth, for example. Sometimes hands, not all the times, though. And sometimes waist articulation as well. That's for an older figure. When it comes to these newer figures, though, it seems to be the case that they've gone the direction of giving us more statues, giving us less in the way of posability for these figures. I think more than making up for it when paint and details. Where again, like I would have expected, I mean, even when you look at like the neck, for example, you can almost see like there's a little cut right there, but I think that's actually just his t-shirt underneath. For a second, I thought I might be able to move Ted's head, but that's not the case at all. Ted's head. Nor can he actually move his arms, so you can't move his hands either. He's pretty much a statue figure, permanently attached, from what I can see at least, onto his display base. And while maybe perhaps he is lacking the articulation, and he is certainly lacking the height, once again bringing back in Freddy, I think one thing at least Mcfarlane did do right by this line, is by incorporating the other things that maybe made the original movie Maniacs line so popular in the first place. Maybe while not giving us necessarily one of those skull-framed backdrops, at least they did give us a cardboard backdrop, at least of the stadiums and, of course, where the team's playing. And also to throw in a sticker, I think, is also a nice touch as well. I don't really know what I'm going to do necessarily with the sticker, but it's there at least included. And you do also get yourself a little card standee as well. The thing about this, again, is the fact that these are limited in run. Ted Lasso runs at only 20,000 copies, which may seem like a lot worldwide. But depending on the popularity of Movie Maniacs, I'm sure that number will start to dwindle. Again, I'm really loving the fact that we have Movie Maniacs now coming back in a big way. While I would, though, question maybe the validity of having Ted Lasso being a character included in Movie Maniacs, being a big fan of the series myself and now well into the newest season, I think we're, again, like episode 2 or episode 3, love the fact that he at least was included. At least we finally get a figure of Ted Lasso, though he's, again, less a figure and more really a statue. Mentioning earlier in the review that Jason Sudeikis did win awards for Ted Lasso, not only did the actor pick up a Primetime Emmy Award in 2021 for his portrayal of Ted Lasso, but he came back the following year and also won the same award in 2022. If you've never had the chance to check out Ted Lasso, honestly, you're missing out. It's one of those series that doesn't hook you right away, but the more episodes that you watch, the more episodes you want to watch. Initially, I went into it just expecting it to be a comedy series, but it's sort of a nice mix between drama and comedy, and it's all about the good feels. If you've been waiting for a series that has all the good feels, give Ted Lasso a chance. Now, when it certainly comes to this figure, I really have to tread cautiously. It's more gray to call this a figure. It's really more a statue and less a figure. If anything, I would say the more follow-up to the Movie Maniacs line would have been Mcfarlane's color tops. If anybody remembers that line from a long time ago, they did release ones for Labyrinth, they did ones for Walking Dead. Those were more in scale figures with, I think, the Movie Maniacs stuff. They also did have more posability going for them as well. These are less, I feel, like Movie Maniacs and more like just statues. If I could only offer up any little bit of criticism, I'm not faulting at all the sculpting and the paintwork that they put into Ted Lasso. I just wish that he was a little bit taller. Not more for the fact that I just want the figure to be bigger, but if also I wanted to display this guy on the shelf with the rest of my Movie Maniacs. Though again, Ted Lasso seems a little out of place, a little outfield to be along the lines of like a Jason Voorhees, a Freddy Krueger, a Leatherface. You may not probably want to be putting out Ted Lasso with those likes of characters, but I think if anything, they probably should have just made them more in scale, more in size with the rest of those earlier movie Maniacs, just so it would seem like it was still a follow-up to that original series. But what do you guys think of Ted Lasso here? Let me know down below in the comments section. Have you had the chance to watch Ted Lasso? And if you have, let me know down below in the comments section what you think of this series. If you've also watched this series, let me throw out a question to you guys. Who's your favorite character in the series, Ted Lasso? My personal favorite is Roy Kent. I think Roy Kent is awesome. He's always talking really grizzly, and he's always in a bad mood. Go Roy Kent. But what's your favorite character? Let me know down below in the comments section. And once again, a big thank you to the folks over at Mcfarlane Toys that did provide the sample of the brand new Movie Maniacs Ted Lasso. We can have a look at this review. If you guys certainly enjoyed this review, why not throw it out a like? If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and on board to see the other Movie Maniacs that we're going to be looking at in upcoming reviews, like The Wicked Witch of the West, and also we're going to be looking at Harry Potter, then make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and that you're also turning on the bell notification. Lots of stuff coming your way, guys. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.